Hi, everybody. Welcome to TradeWindow's first ever Tech Week event. We're very excited to present tonight's sessions, all about TradeTech talks. I'm Gavin de Steer, TradeWindow's Chief Operating Officer, and I'll be moderating this session. So today we're going to have a series of lightning talks from members of the TradeWindow team. And we also have a guest speaker, Herman from AWS, who'll be joining us this evening. So thanks Herman. As part of these lightning talk sessions, you'll be hearing about all things TradeTech, and we'll learn about the tools that we use in our business to make sure that we continue to offer leading TradeTech solutions and push the industry forward. Before we kick off with the talks, I'm just going to give you some information about a prize that's up for grabs for one of today's attendees. And if you can answer the following question based on what speakers are talking about today, you'll be in it for a chance to win. So today's question, and you can write this down, you also see it on the screen at the moment, is what are the two architecture types that Namal will be speaking about today? So make a note of your answer and email it to redefiningtrade@tradewindow.io after this webinar. So the first person to email their answer, and of course it has to be the correct answer, will win a small prize pack from TradeWindow. Right, so moving into tonight's talks, the first person I'm going to hand you over to from TradeWindow, our first speaker, Oscar. Over to you, Oscar.
Thanks, Gavin. Good evening, everyone. I'm Oscar Neglin, working as a QA at TradeWindow. Today, I'm going to talk about the agile practices and culture followed at TradeWindow. Next slide, please. Within the talk, I'm going to discuss three themes. Firstly, collaboration. Secondly, inspect and adaptability. Third one is embracing requirement changes. Next slide. Collaborative approach. Collaborative approach is an important element which enables our development team and customer success team, support team, and customers to work together to get a business solution and attain TradeWindow business value. Collaboration provides clear insight and transparency for all participants and increased visibility across all business layers. The advantage of having visibility across platforms aligns everyone on the same page, and it simplifies the strategy to achieve customer satisfaction. As a real-life example, we involve customer success team as part of requirement gathering to understand the expectation of the customer. The second one is inspect and adaptability. Inspect and adaptation are the pillars that enable TradeWindow team to improve and increase product quality. We developed a practice to have retrospective in each sprint because it provides formal opportunity to focus on inspection and adaptation. Team members inspect how last sprint went with regards to delivery, any technical issues, and even process-related issues. And it is an opportunity to find a solution for those issues, and we implement those solutions in the next sprint, and that helps TradeWindow to sustain our business value. Next. Third theme is embracing requirement changes. We welcome requirement changes even in the last minute of a development process because our business focus is to increase the value we create for our customers. Our iterative development process keeps the customer value on top. So whenever there is a change in requirement, our development team can accommodate the required changes to increase customer satisfaction. However, shifting priorities and changing requirements are inevitable. And it can impact our sprint commitments. Therefore, our team follow 2 weeks of sprint cycle so that the new changes are accommodated within the sprint. As part of the product backlog pipeline, our development team accommodate those changes in requirements and work to understand business value of new requirement changes and the feature value of the customer. We as a team follow shorter sprint cycle, which enable us to accommodate the change of requirement. And that gain customer feedback, improve scope, control, and avoid priority shifts. As a result, the development team can make sure our business values such as customer satisfaction are maintained throughout the process. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Oscar. I'm now going to hand you over to our next three speakers who will follow in quick succession. That is Adi, followed by Namal, and then Derek. So over to you, Adi.
Hey, hi, I'm Adi. I'm a chapter lead for APIs at TradeWindow. Today I'm here to talk about our API strategies and our architecture strategies. So let's begin. Next slide, please. Okay, so TradeWindow, we say we are an API first company, right? Okay, what that means is we prioritize the design and management of APIs over the development. We always think in terms of resources, and we treat our APIs as our assets. So one of the things we try to do is we try to standardize our responses and the way our API would respond across various capabilities that we have. What that does is it makes customer integrations easier, because if you're integrating with us across various capabilities, it just means that you will have consistent responses across all of them. Why do we do that? So a well-defined API specification is like a contract. It's something that your UI developer and the API provider will use, and also third-party integration. So if you have the specifications nailed down, it probably means your implementation is going to go so much smoother. Next slide. Okay, RESTful. So yeah, we prefer RESTful APIs with JSON-based payloads. We use a lot of best practices for resource naming, status code, sub-resources. Some things that we try to avoid are not using verbs for resource names. And how do we come up with these things? So we talk about that in our chapter discussions. So we bring up points, we do collaboration, and we take everyone's opinion. And if you say, okay, if this is what we're going to do, that's how it flows into our standards. So it's a very collaborative environment when you come up with standards. Next slide. Okay, microservices. Micro is good. Now the API design that we do feeds directly into our architecture. And we use the microservices driven approach. What microservices gives us is each component can be designed, developed, operated, and scaled without it affecting the others. The implementation shares no code, and any communication between each microservices happens via well-defined API specifications. That's why the architecture of the APIs is really important before the implementation goes through. Next slide. Yep. So we use all AWS services and services across Azure. There is really no stone wall we have in considering these resources or services to use. We only look at the use case and we decide if a service is good and it fits the use case, we use it. That's the freedom that the microservices architecture gives us. We can sort of use different technologies without it affecting the other things in our ecosystem. So that's just a brief introduction on our API strategy and architecture. Thank you.
Thanks, Ali. Hi, everyone. I'm Nama. I'm working as a senior DevOps engineer at TradeWindow. At TradeWindow, I do things related to cloud and infrastructure architecture, reliability engineering, and everything in between. My colleague Adi already has taken you through our microservices journey at TradeWindow. And for this talk, I'll put microservices like this. Next slide, please. Yep. So Derek will explain what happened to this big orange circle named UI in the next talk, as it's not a single service shown in this diagram anymore. In this diagram, when moving from monolith to microservice, we usually get rid of necessary functionalities on the service to make it minimal. Next slide, please. However, these functionalities are critical to operate at scale with maximum availability. Therefore, we had to implement these features somewhere. And that place is the main topic that I'm going to discuss today, which is the service mesh. Also, in this talk, I'll be focusing on workload running on Kubernetes, which are pods and containers, etc. Next slide, please. For service mesh implementation, we decided to go with Istio, which introduces sidecar proxies to each and every Istio-enabled service pod. I will not discuss the architecture here, but these adapters on the mixer extend the capabilities of the service mesh, such as distributed tracing using Jaeger and service maps using Kiali. Once implemented, all the traffic will start to flow through these sidecar proxies enabling capabilities such as, next slide, please, service discovery, traffic management such as routing, load balancing, circuit breaking, and retries, perform authentication and authorization, monitor the service health, internal and external, configuration validation, observability, as we can gather telemetry data via the proxies. Next slide, please. The top left image here shows service map, and green arrow shows successful requests to the specific service. Top right image shows a distributed tracing example using Jaeger. Bottom left shows the graph on a dashboard for pilot, which is configuration push status. And on right, metrics using Prometheus. To sum up, if we had to develop all these capabilities into each and every service, it is still possible. However, offloading all this into dedicated layers such as service mesh allows developers to focus more on the business logic while delegating the scalability and resilient configuration to reliability engineering team, which adds flexibility and uniformity. Next slide, please. Although we are currently using the service mesh for traffic management, security, and observability, in future, we are looking to extend this one for canary releases, multi-cloud, multi-class scenarios, and to include serverless workloads. Next slide, please. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Nono. My name is Derek, and my role is a front-end software developer. I'm in charge of designing the architecture and implementing the solution for our front-end application at TradeWindow. So today I will talking about the micro front-end architecture. So next slide, please. So first, I will talking about what is the micro front-end architecture. So in the left-hand side, the current trend is to build a feature-rich and powerful browser application, which is also known as the single-page application. So this application type will sit on top of the microservice architecture. And on the right-hand side is the micro front-end architecture. So the micro front-end extends the concept of the microservice. So you just divide the front-end application into different multiple modules or applications. We can call them as the micro applications. And then we have a sticking layer, which will using for navigation and loading the micro apps for the user. So each micro app can be standalone, as we can see from the picture. So next slide, please. So now I will be talking about how the micro front-end benefit us. So at TradeWindow, we're using the Q platform to integration the solution that help the exporter, importer, freight forwarder to running their business. And so in the Q platform, we have a lot of features and like the contract document, booking and schedule account, and more feature is coming to integration into this platform. As the application is growing, and it becomes harder to maintain, and also the code base will become much bigger. It's very hard for the developer to onboarding. So we using the micro front-end architecture to help to sort our circumstance. So by using the architecture, so each of the module can be a micro app. So we can help us to speed up our development process. The micro app can be developed by separate teams as they stand alone, and also different micro app can be developed at the same time without any conflict. And eventually, each app can be using different tech stack as well. So another good benefit is that it can reduce the complexity of the maintenance. As we know, the each micro app is standalone, so they do not have dependency of each other. So when we need to update part of our application, we just need to update one of the micro apps, and other will remain the same. So which will help to reduce the time of update our applications. So in addition, it also can help to boost our user experience by providing a fast application. Compared to the single page application, you will need to download the whole app for the user before they can run the application on the browser. But for the micro front end, we just need to serve a micro app to the user. So it takes short time to initial the application. So it's a good experience for the user. And moreover, because this architecture, the micro app can be lazy loading. So we know that not every user need to using all the features that we have in the Q platform. So we can just serve only one micro app for them, and the other app we can serve only on demand. Next slide, please. So finally, I will say the architecture also have some problem for us. So the first thing is that we know that our current design is using the component-based design. So in the component can be using all across our platform. So which means that different micro app, they may have the same component that using the same way. So but each micro app is standalone. That means each micro app will develop their own version of the same components, which is redundant. So for the solution of this one, we recommend that we extract the common component into a separate library. So then each micro app can import and reuse the components. And another issue is that the style conflict. As we know, the CSS using the selector to styling the HTML. So it's hard to make sure that we don't have the selector conflict all across our micro app because they were developed by different teams. So the solution to this one is to localize the style for the micro app. So CSS in JS will be an ideal way for the style localization because the style will only apply for the components only. So we have a bunch of library can doing that like the style component. So the other way is we can using the CSS model or using some CSS preprocessor like the SCSS. Okay. Next slide. Okay, thank you for listening.
Thanks, Derek and Namal and Adi. Those were all great insights. I'm now going to hand you over to our Chief Technology Officer, Guy Kloss.
Hello, everybody. Thanks a lot. Yes, I'm going to tell you a little bit about blockchain, or as we call it, the trust engine, and hopefully you can understand why we call it this. Next slide, please. All right. A blockchain is a decentralized system of different nodes, or they're distributed across a consortium's participants. So that means that everybody participating in it, so either the rest of the world or the consortium members, are actually verifying everything that goes in by everybody. And they're all holding a complete copy of everything. So it's like a database that everybody has a copy of. So it's very quick and easy to access. And so why is it called a blockchain? So all the transactions, or all the things that are being put into it are being collected over amount of time and are added to a block. And when a block is full or the time is up, this block is sent to the chain and is approved by everybody. And when it gets the thumbs up, the okay, then it can be added to the chain. Thus, they're being chained up. And so past entries are never overwritten because they're in previous blocks. They will stay there. So whenever there are changes, there will be a record. Hey, this has changed from back in the end time. So this is what it's now. So we're preserving history. So it's a perfect mean for going and bringing all kinds of goodness together for making it auditable. But one of the things is you need to know when to avoid blockchain use. So it's very hip in a way. So that is not the reason to use it everywhere. Also, you don't really want to store a lot of data on the blockchain because the data is being pumped around and held by everybody in their shared database. So you don't want to use it as a central storage repository for all kinds of big chunks. If you do need to store things, usually there's a way around that. So you store that in another system called IPFS, for example, the Interplanetary File System. It's quite a fancy name. That is a decentralized storage system that has uniquely linkable addresses that can't change. So it's called content addressing there. And then you can use those addresses on the blockchain and just refer to these things. But there's a very good use case that we are also making heavy use of here at TradeWindow. We're anchoring interactions through an immutable audit trail. So let's unpack that. So we're storing whatever is happening as an action on the chain that can't ever be changed, that can't ever be tampered with. And therefore, it's perfect for auditing. And you can't have any rogue database administrator who goes and tampers with the database, you know, the one with the hoodie sitting in the data center with a cable keyboard attached to it. So if you find these things interesting, we're actually hiring. So if you want to wear a hip t-shirt like this, come to us, talk to us. Anyway, next slide, please. So this is how we use it. This is how it's going to be useful, put for good use and for the things that it's good for. So we're dealing with international trade. That's a big, messy problem administratively. So you see on that diagram that is quite complex. I think it's something like 14 different parties involved that all have all kinds of interactions. That gets very, very different and busy with the different types of interactions. There's no shared view on common data. There are a lot of point-to-point connections and integrations, but can everything be trusted? Can't it be intercepted, tampered with? Well, we don't know. Next slide, please. So while bringing in blockchain, you have that overall concept of everything linking together on that one single view. The goal is to make it simple, to create that common view, make it trustworthy and auditable, and to, well, we call it to create that common super connector. And in the end, our goal or our ambition is to develop something that's what we call a network of networks, because we have our own blockchain, our consortium blockchain, but we can, and we do link in with other blockchain systems by other parties and other networks for interactions to tie everything together into a single view. I think that's it for now. Thanks a lot for everything.
Thanks for that, Guy. I'll now hand you over to our final speaker from TradeWindow for the evening, Edgar Valdez.
Hi, everybody. I'm Edgar. I'm the data analytics lead here at TradeWindow. And today I'm going to talk to you about how we do analytics and the serverless approach that we took to deliver insights. Next. The main 3 points that I would like to discuss with you guys are data infrastructure, serverless application, and consuming insights. Next. In terms of infrastructure, we rely on AWS services to develop our data lake and serverless data applications. Our infrastructure is made of S3 buckets, Glue Catalog, Glue Jobs, Glue Crawlers, Lake Formation, Athena, and Sisense as our BI tool. On the right-hand side, you can see how the data flows, as well as how we use each of those services. Next. Next, please. In terms of, well, now that we have set up our data lake, we have to populate it. We have several data sources here in TradeWindow, such as structured databases, NoSQL databases, and key value databases. We use PySpark to pull data from those sources, and then the ETL jobs are triggered. We use step functions to orchestrate the jobs. On the right-hand side, you can see how a typical ETL application looks like. In terms of development, we use CDK. This allows us to deploy our applications as a cloud formation stack so we can deploy them across several AWS accounts. Next. Now that we have data, we need to make sense of it. Here at TradeWindow, we have 2 use cases. An internal use case where we develop and produce insight for teams such as customer success, finance, product, so that they can have visibility of our customers' activity and engagement with our products. This allows them to support activities such as cross-sell, upsell, retention, and billing. On the other hand, we have an external use case where we embed dashboard and analytics into our own applications so that our customers can have visibility of their own business and how it performs. And pretty much that's all. That's how we do analytics here at TradeWindow. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Edgar. Now, finally, I will hand you over to our guest speaker, Herman Trelles from Amazon Web Services, or for some of us, it's more commonly known as AWS. So thank you for joining us today, Herman, and look forward to hearing from you.
Hey, Gavin. Thank you very much for the intro. Hey, everyone. My name is Herman from Amazon Web Services. I've been with the company for about 2 years. I would like to start just briefly talking about where AWS came from. So 16 odd years ago, we were looking for a technology solution to help us scale and free of commitments. So we built it ourselves, basically. This is where culture innovation and invention started. People think of cloud platforms usually as a data center, and it's much more than that. And TradeWindow has been trusting us and working with us since 2018, hosting most of their workloads on AWS. I would like to expand soon also about the analytics services that they've been leveraging for the workloads. And also mention that some of the customers that we work with that also trust us in New Zealand, like Freightways, Air New Zealand, Soul Machines, Zero, and Matter, which you might have heard of, which launched the vaccine pass in 2021 with the Ministry of Health. They chose us for the discussions we generate, the philosophy that we have in our business, and how we can help them innovate. A workshop that we provide our customers to really learn about the experience of the peculiar culture that we have is called the Amazon Culture of Innovation Workshop. It's how we introduce customers to culture, mechanisms, architecture, and organization. We share some of the principles of working backwards. We shared about development of microservices. We share about the two pizza teams and much more. An example of innovation on behalf of our customer is for example, 90% of the things that we do are innovation on behalf of our customers. For example, Redshift in 2013. So listening to customers like TradeWindow voice their concerns in the market of a service of that nature. The other 10% is us being is focused on strategic interpretations of what we think our customers need. An example of this is AWS Lambda, which was launched in 2014. But why AWS? I think one of the most important questions that customers ask me when I meet with them is, why should I trust you with my workloads? And very often I ask them, why do you want to use AWS? And I know it sounds a little bit, probably not very salesy, but we need to understand what is the motivation behind the decision they're going to take to choosing the technology partner. We have unmatched market experience, security, reliability, and performance that you can depend upon for your most critical workloads. And the other thing, we're committed to sustainability. Amazon is on a path to powering its operations 100% with renewable energy by 2025, which is 5 years ahead of the previous commitment of 2030. And this and more are the reasons why we were chosen by Gartner as the leader of the 2021 Magic Quadrant for infrastructure and platform services in 2021 for the 11th consecutive year. AWS is also investing very heavily in New Zealand. We're going to be launching a Asia Pacific Auckland region in 2024. This means that it's going to be a 7.5 billion New Zealand dollars investment. And there is going to be 1,000 jobs created from this. And we are estimating about an impact of 10.8 billion New Zealand dollars over the course of 15 years in the country. So this is massive. Honestly, it's great news for a lot of people who are looking to host their data and applications in New Zealand, for data sovereignty or data residency issues. The other major investment that AWS is doing, which is coming soon, is the AWS Local Zone in Auckland. It's a type of infrastructure deployment that places compute, database, and other services near large population industry and technology centers to deploy applications that require single-digit millisecond latency. AWS has been working with TradeWindow, as I said before, since 2018 and supporting them in various ways. And one of them has been providing cloud best practices patterns and also working with them in data analytics, providing services like data lakes on S3 which is foundational for making sense of data across organizations and removing data silos in your company. They also use AWS Glue, which is a serverless data integration service. You can easily discover, prepare, and combine data within for analytics, machine learning, and application development. They use Lambda, which is a serverless event-driven compute service. It can be run across 200 services on AWS, and it's a pay for what you use model. And in AWS, Amazon Athena, which is an interactive query service to help them analyze data in Amazon S3 using standard SQL. And again, it's pay as you go. You only pay for the queries that you make. TradeWindow is also making use of AWS Marketplace, which is a curated digital catalog with more than 12,000 offerings and more than 2,000 ISVs, independent software vendors that present their software in this catalog. One of them is a trusted AWS partner called Sisense, which TradeWindow is currently using them for the business intelligence and dashboard needs. Last but not least, one very important thing that we're doubling down this year is training and certification. In 2022, with new offering, discounts, and funding programs, and full support and advisory of AWS solution architects on one-on-one sessions when needed. We do immersion days too, full and half days. We do workshops, and it's things that we encourage our customers to come and talk about us, what their challenges are, and how we can help them build on AWS, and also what their business is doing. We're committed to work with TradeWindow and other customers in New Zealand to make sure that we help them upscale and increase staff retention this way. I would like to finish by saying that at AWS, we live for customer obsession and always doing what is right for our customers. For that reason, I would like to encourage anyone from TradeWindow, and honestly, it's been great having me here, meeting all the guys in the office. It's been amazing, and I would like to encourage anyone from in the talk today to come and contact me over LinkedIn for a chat or a coffee or anything, and talk to me about what are your projects, initiatives, and how we can work together. We are long-term oriented, we're pioneers, innovators, and usually customer focused, and we strive to be a true partner for our customers. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you to all our speakers, and especially to you there, our guest speaker, Herman. Thanks for taking us through the AWS platform and just in terms of the benefits of the platform. So great to hear about that. And that wraps up our talks for the evening. But I'd like to hand over now to Guy Kloss again, and to our audience this time as well, for a Q&A session. Now we will open up the Q&A function for about 5 minutes or so for anyone to feed through some questions that you may have regarding any of the talks that you heard tonight, and perhaps any general questions that you have around TradeWindow. So over to you, Guy.
Yes, thank you very much, Gavin, and everybody who's been speaking so far. So yes, this is the time where we'll swap the roles of the audience, becoming the content providers, hopefully to some degree. Please feel free to use the Q&A chat function to pitch in some things you're interested in to know. Any of the speakers is still available and happy to provide any type of questions. Yes, I'll just, there is something. How long I have worked with blockchain for blockchain technology. I have, it's kind of difficult to answer. I got interested in blockchain in, well, I've heard it all over the place, Bitcoin here and there. In 2013, I read up on how it all worked and got even more interested in it. So wanted to have some stakes in it and bought from a peer just across the desk some Bitcoin. But actually working actively with it probably was in 2017, developing a decentralized blockchain-based digital identity system. Another question. Do you advertise your jobs on your website? Yes, we do. There should be somewhere a link. You can also find things on Seek or the odd times on LinkedIn. But the easiest will be really go to the website. There's somewhere in the footer, someplace where you can find the currently open positions. Any other questions? Maybe there's one question. There's, I'll repeat the question. In Derek's talk, he mentioned client microservices rendering app. I wasn't sure what app is. Maybe Derek can answer the question. Over to you, please, Derek.
The microphone end. Can I say again the question?
The question is, in your talk, you've mentioned rendering app. So the question was by Richard Shear. He was not sure what that app is. So what specific app is that?
The Qt platform is the app we are currently using, the microphone and architecture. So you will have multiple different micro apps is running on the Qt platform now.
Yeah. So Richard has just corrected that he meant rendering app.
Rendering.
Yeah.
So you mean we are using the React rendering our app?
I suppose this is the app that's connecting to a microservice to render the output as on a UI level.
Yeah, because in the UI we just using the React to rendering our app. So basically every front end we are using is using the React base. I'm not sure if this can help answer his question.
Yes, to put that a little bit into context, maybe we do have UI components that are micro UI components that can be composed into a larger application, and the different components are then related to different pieces of functionality in the platform.
Yeah, the good thing of the micro front end is that, so currently we are using the React for coding the component, but also the micro front end can support other tech stacks like the Angular. So they can also using Angular to coding their components, and they can working together in an app, because so that means part of the app is running using the React and part we're using the Angular. So it doesn't have any conflict.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope that has answered Richard's question there. There was another question to Adi. What is the best thing about Agile culture? Can you please?
There are so many things good. If I had to pick best thing, I would probably say in Agile you have a lot of freedom, and it's more collaborative. So I think when you have a difference of opinion or a different idea, it's really easy to put it forward in Agile, and teams learn, discuss, and then if some changes are needed, they're implemented right away instead of taking a long time. So I think that's collaboration is the best thing about the Agile culture, according to me. Yep.
Okay, there's another question by Karthik. I hope I have pronounced the name properly. The question is, I see you have product owners. Do you have business analysts to gather requirements and support your SDLC and sprint delivery? We are in a fortunate situation that the majority of our product owners are also subject matter experts, and therefore they know the international trade domain quite well to understand the context of how solutions need to be composed to deliver the right value. And they are feeding then the inputs into the sprint plan, into the program increment plans, so that they can be executed. You want to add something, Adi? It seemed like you
pretty much covered everything. Yeah.
Okay. Tao is asking a question about agile practices regarding acceptance last-minute change requests. Do you accept change requests in the current sprint? If so, how do you avoid these change requests impacting dev productivity? I will pass that on to Oscar.
Hi, that's a good question. Basically, we accommodate based on the priority. We need to look after the business value, what we are getting as a requirement change. Yes, of course, we can accommodate, but we have to think about what is actually the impact on the current sprint. Basically, if you have got a large amount of work coming as part of a requirement change, we have to push some of the current sprint commitment to the next sprint. If the priority is very less, or if it doesn't have any major business value, so we can accommodate in the following sprint or the upcoming sprint.
Yes, so there will be a pushback if possible, but things are not always possible. And if things are really urgent, we need to unfortunately bite the bullet, and something else will have to give to disrupt really the sprint.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Tao. A question from Pam to Derek. Derek, if you want to come back, this is the last question also. If there are any open things, please feel free to get in touch with us via any means, via LinkedIn or email or whatever. Pam is asking, Derek, are you able to speak more about what you mean by conflicts in style in the data in regards to CSS preprocessing?
Well, the conflict styles means the selector may be using the same class name. And if by doing that in different apps, that means the style will be polluted by different apps. And also if some app using the style for the directly to some global styles, and so you will also polluting other apps. So by using the CSS preprocessor, for example, the SAS as CSS, they can add the namespace, some kind of namespace. That means each class name, they will under some specific class name. For example, if we keep a contract app as the namespace, and that means the selector or class will have the contract app in the selector. So that means we can reduce the chance of that the same class name using in different app. So we will prevent the conflict of the style.
I hope that answers Pam's question. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for everybody who's had the patience to wait until their question could be answered. Yeah, please, Gavin, over to you again.
Thanks, Guy. Thanks for all those questions, everybody. And thanks for all the answers. That wraps up our event for this evening. A big thank you to everyone for attending, and I hope you've at least learned something about the tech or TradeWindow and have found it insightful. I'll quickly repeat that question for the prize draw. What were the two architecture types that Namal spoke about today? It's up on the screen at the moment. So just remember to email that to redefiningtrade@tradewindow.io to be in it to win. And you're welcome, if you've got any additional questions, to just add them there as well. Again, thanks to all our speakers, and thanks to everyone for joining. I hope you have a good evening.